You want to hear about issues. Everybody that's running, all 10 of us are going to say mostly the same thing on things like these push cards. Okay, that's just the reality of it. If you're running in the Republican primary, you're going to have mostly the same bullet points on your push cards. Everybody has to have a push card. So why do I even want to talk about issues? I mean, everybody's going to be pro-life, right? Let me have a raise of hands. Everybody pro-life in here?
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure. Okay, so what's the difference? Everybody's pro-life in the Republican primary, certainly the candidates. They may not vote that way when they get to Washington, but first of all, I've got a track record of literally shutting down Planned Parenthood for 2 years when I was working in Austin. It was only for 2 years, but we did shut them down for those 2 years. The bigger thing is that I've got the endorsement, not just some support, not just they like me a little better. I've got the endorsement of Texas Right to Life. That's the largest, oldest, most effective pro-life organization in Texas. And in a 10-person race, I'm very honored to have that particular endorsement. Interestingly, since I chaired the Legislative Priorities Committee at the state convention last time, there's another group called Abolish Abortion Texas. And the two groups don't always get along very well. They kind of have different strategic approaches to pro-life. And as chairman of that committee, I got them together and they hammered out some ways they actually could work together. And I've actually got both groups' endorsement, not just one. Another big issue is school choice. Talking to people all the time, door knocking, people testifying in Austin, all kinds of things going on. Everybody recognizes that not all schools, but at least some schools are abysmal failures. The Texas Education Association actually gives out F grades to some school districts now. They're failing districts. This is particularly true in like the inner cities. The solution to failing districts, it also happens to be the solution to things like the CRT nonsense that's being pushed in a lot of our schools. That's coming from the top down. That's coming from Department of Education in DC, executive orders all the way down through TEA. The way you shut down stuff like that is you empower parents to ultimately make the choice of where their students are going to go to school. And unfortunately, we don't have meaningful choice unless you're financially able to send your kids to private schools or maybe you can homeschool. In those cases, we do have choice. But the reality is there's a lot of people in our society that do not have those two choices available. And to ignore those kids in, say, a failing inner city Houston school is probably one of the worst injustices we can do to those students that are going to those schools. So we need to have school choice. It's another case where I've got two different groups that don't ordinarily get along with each other very well that have both endorsed me. First is the Texas Homeschool Coalition. They're the school choice version of Texas Right to Life, if you will. And then the Texas Home Educators Association, and they're the Abolish Abortion Texas on the school choice side of things, if you will. And so those four groups are absolutely awesome endorsements that I'm just humbled to have. It wasn't really even that difficult, and I'm saying that because normally when these groups are trying to figure out how they're going to endorse people, they're looking at what people say they want to do. In my case, they were looking at what I have already done through working with the state party, the platform, the legislative priorities, things of that sort.